Welcome to a live Empowering Leaders podcast live from London. Tonight we present to you the Leadership Playbook presented by Aleda and Live, Love, Better. So a huge thank you to Lorena Brunel and her incredible contribution to making this happen today. We're very grateful, Lorena. We're joined by two of the world's great coaches and leaders, men who first excelled on the field before inspiring greatness from the sidelines. From the NBA, a man whose playing career included 5 championships alongside legends like Michael Jordan and Tim Duncan, has gone on to transform the Golden State Warriors to a modern great with 4 NBA titles. Put your hands together and welcome Steve Kerr. Thank you, Steve. And from the Premier League, a midfielder who played over a decade at the highest level in Spain and England, growing up in San Sebastian through the Barcelona Academy to captaining Arsenal with distinction. And today as a manager, he has led Arsenal back to the absolute top echelon of the English Premier League. An FA Cup triumph in his first season and consecutive driving Arsenal to the top. Welcome, Mikel Arteta. Thank you, Mikel. Two great leaders from different sports who are champions for leadership, for culture and for building environments where people thrive. I want to start with you, Mikel, an incredible playing career for over a decade. Can you tell us about the difference for you as a leader on the field? You captain Arsenal as a player to what it's like to be a leader as manager now of your team.
Well, obviously a very different role, an amazing opportunity. I always had the feeling when I was just about to finish my career that I would do something else, that I went over that line and start to see the game and to experience a lot of the things that I learned through my career as a coach. And I was given the opportunity very early to be part of this incredible club and enjoying it very, very much so far.
And Steve, for you too, with an incredible success in everything you did as a player, and can you tell us the difference for you transitioning into leading organisations as you've done as the head coach of the Golden State Warriors? How would you describe that different form of leadership?
Well, as a player, you worry about yourself. You know, you're constantly working on your body and your mind, and you're just thinking about your career. And yes, you want to be a good teammate. You want to, be productive and contribute to the team. But as a coach, you have to think about everybody. And so suddenly, you're thinking of every player's story. You're checking in with them. You're thinking about how to help them be better players. So it's a much more comprehensive job. In many ways, it's more gratifying because of that. You develop these amazing relationships and you develop your skills in terms of communicating and trying to reach people. And it's incredibly energizing. I look forward to every practice just because of the interaction with the whole group.
More satisfying as a coach than a player?
Yeah, in a lot of ways. And honestly, as a player, I played for 15 years and I was a role player. I was never a great player. And so in many ways, every night was a real challenge, just to survive. And I was, slower and weaker than most of my opponents. And as a coach, my brain doesn't feel slower or weaker than the other coaches. So I feel like I'm actually more suited to coach than I was to play. I was trying to keep up with all these guys as a player, and now it's like, all right, I'm on level playing field here.
I see you're nodding along, Mikel. You relate to that, the satisfaction as a manager more than a player, maybe?
Yeah, it's a question that's always been thrown, and everybody says there is nothing like being a player. And actually now I disagree. I think, as Steve mentioned, I think the fulfillment of feeling somebody very much aligned, connected to you with a real purpose, with that level of energy, enthusiasm that is contagious. When you actually feel that and things working out as planned and happening is the most powerful thing that I've experienced.
In fairness to you, Steve, you were trying to keep up with Michael Jordan. That's not an easy thing to do, and I think most of us perhaps think he may be the best athlete ever. Can you tell us about him as a teammate and how it shaped you?
Yeah, he was the most emotionally dominant athlete I've ever seen in my life, and it's not close. And Obviously, the physical skills were incredible. He's the greatest player of all time. But there was an emotional dominance that was hard to quantify. But when you were on his team, you knew you were going to win. The other team knew he was going to win. The officials knew he was going to win. And the fans knew he was going to win. But as a teammate, that was not easy because he drove us at such a high standard every single day. And frankly, I had teammates who I enjoyed a lot more. Tim Duncan, was very different leader. Tim was much more like Steph Curry, very compassionate, empathetic, collaborative. Michael just drove us. He drove us, and it was effective, but it was a very different form of leadership. And playing with him changed my whole career, and I owe him, my whole career really, but it was not easy.
I've got to pick up on that for a moment, Steve, because we all, I think, were captivated by The Last Dance and felt like you got a look at the inside, and perhaps some teammates don't look back fondly on that time, even with the champion's success. Is that true? Is it success if you're not fulfilled?
That's a good question. I think generally, if you're lucky enough to win an NBA championship, you feel fulfilled. Even if getting there, or maybe especially if getting there, was not easy. And I think that's part of competition at the highest level. It's just it's so difficult. And when you're a player and you go through that whole season, there's so much adversity, whether it's being injured or being booed or traded or whatever. These days, all the criticism you receive online, all that stuff. When you break through, it's an incredible feeling for sure.
Mikel, watch you from afar, and we just see this extraordinary passion. I think I would love to play in a team coached by Mikel Arteta. It's an extraordinary level of passion. Can you describe where that passion comes from you?
Probably from home. The place where I was raised, I think, ignited on me that love for the ball, that fight, that persistency, that passion. As Steve mentioned, I wasn't the fastest, I wasn't the tallest. So I have to figure it out, what I had to do to be better than the opposition, better than the teammates, better than the people that had the dream that it was the same as mine. And then understanding, and I think finding the coach within the game and just constantly looking for something innovative, something creative, something different to click the player's attention and to make it work is what fascinates me, and it keeps me very much on my toes.
Mikel, we spoke to a couple of your teammates in preparation, Fernando Torres and Tim Cahill, and what's Mikel Arteta like? They said you've always had a presence. When you walk into a room, there's a presence. You can feel that in your company now, but they didn't quite understand the creativity that you have. Is that something you held back as a player that you use now as a manager?
Probably it's driven by curiosity. I see potential. I want to be surrounded by the best people in the world that can add value to what I do, that can open a little window, and then from there I can knock it and open a massive door, and then something else to explore. And that's what it drives my energy, whereas my passion is. Obviously, I love winning, but I love the process on making that happen, especially when we deserve it. Is how we done everything it takes to deserve actually to win the game. Winning it is fine, but the satisfaction is actually convincing those guys to do it in a certain ways, to anticipate what's going to happen, and when it happens, and then the magic happens, that's incredible.
You can see the smile on your face. Steve, you've never been afraid to use your platform for bigger issues in the world. You've been a champion for going after gun violence in a high-profile way. Can you tell us about your passion for stepping up when you feel like you're aligned with your values?
Well, I learned from Greg Popovich, my coach in San Antonio. He was the first coach that I ever knew who really spoke out on public issues, social issues. And he really inspired me. And so as I got into coaching and my profile grew and people knew, who I was, I realized I had a platform and that I should use it to speak on things that are important to me. I lost my dad to gun violence, and so that issue is very important to me. And as you all know, it's a terrible issue in the United States. It's the number one killer of children in the United States. It's gun violence, which is crazy. So we have to do something about it. We meaning the democracy, the people, and so I have a voice. It doesn't mean I can, change policy, but I can help the movement that will change policy, and that's something that I'm very passionate about.
You're 18 years of age when you lost your father to that tragic incident in Beirut. How did that shape the person that you are now?
I think it made me appreciate every second of life. It made me appreciate family. It made me appreciate close friends. It made me realize the fragility of life, and it also made me realize we all have stuff. We all go through things that are very difficult. Every human being at some point is going to go through, whether it's a death in the family or an illness or there's so many things that affect each one of us. And just having compassion for one another and understanding what people are going through, that's what helps others, get through their own adversity and trials and tribulations. And I feel that from other people. I think it's so easy to get lost in the bad news that exists in the world today. If you're on your phone and you're scrolling, doom scrolling, I guess is the term, then you can literally just feel your heart drop. But when you're with people and you're communicating and you're having a nice conversation, you can feel the humanity, you feel joy, you feel love, and that's why it's so important that we all continue to communicate and collaborate.
And Mikel, we see that humanity in you and the great empathy and care you have for your players, and I think Zoe used the word love before for your players. Do you see that the leadership obviously has an opportunity on a global stage as well, that you can influence beyond the teams that you manage as well?
Yes, I think in our roles, probably the way I would describe it is like surfing the wave. And you're there standing still on your board, and any minute something can happen. And in our job, I think we have to be able to see the picture with real clarity. That's the first thing, in my opinion, that we have to provide. So in order to do that, I can see the wave 3 miles earlier forming, so I can be prepared. Then I think we have to create the right environment in our teams to be able to, those individuals, first of all, to be protected, to feel that they are listened, and we're going to care for them, and we can improve them. And then we need to act. And that action point is something to take the board, run to the beach, and get away because I'm not going to be able to survive. And some of the times get a different board. Some of the times is get in that wave, bring people with you on the journey, and enjoy it. But you have to be really good at paying attention on what is happening around you, especially because we live with a lot of individuals, in my case, very different backgrounds, education, 20 different nationalities. They all feel and understand things in a different way. And we need to click with them to get the best out of them. It's the only way to do it. And in order to do that, you have to be there, ready for anything that can happen, because your emotional state will change. In 1 second, you are in a gray mode, and Steve knows much better than me. Suddenly you get some news, and your mood goes down. But now you have to talk to them about the game plan that is going to happen in an hour's time. And emotionally, you have to be ready for that. And I think that's the beauty of it.
A lot of inputs come your way, Mikel, and all those outside forces are, having to monitor your emotional state. Is that something, as you said, you've got to be great for people in your environment all the time? Is that something you're conscious of, your emotional state in front of your players?
Yes, but I think it starts, you are able to create that environment at the training ground, for example. And when you just drive in, the guy at the gate is with a smile on his face, and it's the moment of his day. When I drive in, the first one, I said, I'm ready, and he opens the door, he's got a how are you, mate? And he shouts, you put the window down. If the day starts like this, is something good happening. That's going to, I think, overcome any situation that you have to face. And then the fact that people are enjoying the moment, that they go to work thinking, okay, what's today? What's the new? What's the new element that we're going to learn? What's the experience that we're going to share today together? And I think with that in mind and with that environment, you can create anything, because at the end, there is a lot of pressure, there is a lot of things there, but it has to be something that weights the rest of the things. And in my case, is that just looking at the people, comes in the building, Kate, a lot of people that are familiar here, big smile, ready to go, feel connected, feel part of something, and let's do it together. And the result would dictate how happy we are the next day, but that process, let's enjoy it.
You relate to that, Steve?
It's beautiful. That's exactly what I felt when I played for these great coaches. I played for Phil Jackson and Greg Popovich, my college coach, Lute Olson. They're all Hall of Fame coaches. And basically, Mikel, you just described everything I felt when I walked into the building with those coaches. There's a vibe, there's an aura, there's a feeling. And every person matters, right? So like you said, they walk into the building and, these days we have, when I played, we had like 3 coaches, now we have 12. We had 1 trainer back then, 2 trainers, now we have 15, So there's so many points of contact for each person, and that's why every person you hire to be on your staff, to be in the building is so important. Because if there's a good vibe coming from every spot, and there's real values behind what you're trying to accomplish, right? As you said, you care about your players, you genuinely care about them. There's a feeling in the building that the players look forward to every day. And so my coaches, my mentors taught me that coaching is really like being a parent, like being a teacher. What are your values? What do you stand for? What are you here for? And when the players can feel those values come alive every single day, and at every point of contact, there's this pursuit that, like, we're going for it. We're trying to win. And we're going to help you be the very best player you can be. We're going to provide every resource. And when they leave, they think, man, that was fun. Like, that was really engaging. That's culture. And that's what all the great coaches do that I've known.
The hardest thing that, in my case, I struggle the most, because it's the word clarity. We want to give clarity to everybody, staff included. And we always talk about, okay, what does that mean? Clarity. So at the end is, okay, defining what the goal is, what we're going to do, which is the purpose, and then what is your role? And that has to be very much defined to be clear.
Clarity is not always good news for the players.
Exactly.
Right.
So when you go to clarity, I always ask my players 3 things. So when I think a player or a staff member has to do something, so he's going to be the head of the sports science department, I ask 3 questions. To be the head, is it, first of all, can he do it? Second one, does he know how to do it? And the third one, does he want to do it? But the same with the player. I can ask the player, when we do that, I want you to track back, and I look at his face. Sports science, can he do it? Yeah. Is it me as a coach? Do you know that he needs to do it? Yes. I look at him. Does he want to do it? We have a problem here. The want at the end is the driver, because you can put a player in a position to tell him, from tomorrow, you're going to be the tier 2 player as a midfielder. If he looks at you and he doesn't want to be that player, he wants to be the tier 1, I think it's going to be a problem.
That's right.
But if he's willing to take that role, to push, to become again the tier 1, I think you have every option to do it. And to provide that clarity in every a football club or there, I think it's very different and demands a level of communication and skill that is really high, because I think, in my opinion, that's the thing that when trust goes away is because that communication is lacking.
Mikel just looked at me and said, "What's your role?" And I nearly fell off my chair, Steve. But, I think you know where you would stand. Mikel, you spent 3 years with Pep Guardiola and won many titles. What did you take from working with Pep?
The most incredible experience. We knew each other since we were 15 years old, but when I actually worked with him 24/7, and I realized, first of all, his work ethic, there is no magic on that. Then the clarity in what he wanted to do and how much he was willing to put to accomplish what he wanted to do it in a way that he wanted to do it. And the third one, how bold he was to make brave decisions and the timing of those decisions. And he was something that from day one I noticed is that this guy is gonna make it happen somehow. And if it's not the players, it will go to the board, it will go to the greenkeeper, but this is happening, and it's happening soon. So he has the power to convince everybody that under him, success is coming, and it's coming soon. And I think that's a big thing.
Steve, you referenced Phil Jackson's impact on you. Can you share us a bit more about how he shaped you as the coach and leader you are?
Just the authenticity, and that's what I realized from a lot of my coaches, but Phil was the most authentic and the most unique coach I ever played for. He grew up in North Dakota near an Indian reservation, and he was very into Native American history and spirituality. So we would we would meet in a meeting room every single day that had Native American art all over the walls. He would refer to us as his tribe, and we would be on the practice court before the meeting. We'd working on our shooting, and his office was upstairs. And when it was time to go up to the meeting room, he'd come out and he'd bang a drum, and that was his paying homage to the Native American history. And he would tell stories about. I remember we had Dennis Rodman on our team, right? And everybody knows he was a real character. So Phil one day said to us, he said, there's in every tribe, in this certain Native American tribe, he said, in every tribe, there's someone they refer to as the Joker. And the Joker is someone who's counterculture, counterintuitive, thinks differently from everybody else, acts differently, does things differently. And that person is very important in the tribe. He said, Dennis is our Joker. And so he would use Native American history and spirituality to make these analogies, and we became his tribe. It was real. And the only reason it was real was this is how he grew up, this is what he believed in, and it became very powerful. If I tried to be Phil Jackson and tell the Warriors that they were my tribe, they would laugh at me. It's not, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. So you have to be yourself, but the players have to know who you are, and they have to learn that. And they can only learn that if you share who you are and your values and what's meaningful to you. And that's where the collaboration and the communication and really players and coaches getting to know each other. And there's ways, that we work on that all year, but it becomes very special because that's how you build relationships, and it's amazing.
Phil had to intervene at training. You got in a fight with Michael Jordan, ended up with a black eye.
Kicked his ass. That poor guy. I still feel bad for him.
Might be the most courageous thing you've ever done, Steve. How does Phil Jackson handle that moment? You've got a black eye. He sends Michael home from training. What do you do in that situation?
It happens, I'm sure it happens for you guys. There's usually, I would say, 2 or 3 fights a year on our team in basketball. And, it's not like the normal rules of society. You can't go to work and in the office and punch somebody. But in basketball, you can kind of do that. And it's like, it's okay after, but Phil, the way Phil handled it was very matter of fact. He came to us separately. I think he went to Michael and he said, "You need to, apologize to Steve." And I went home, and then Michael called me and apologized. And it was fine. It was also the mid-'90s when this stuff didn't make it. There was no social media, so it was actually a lot easier to handle. We had an incident on our team with the Warriors a few years ago, where not only was there a fight that made it out to the media, but the actual video footage made it online, and it destroyed our team. And I tried my best to handle it. But when the video made it out, the player who was involved, Jordan Poole, the video was much more difficult than the fight itself. And we were trying to repair that all season long, and we never really were able to. So there are things that happen all the time that are so difficult. You do your best. You communicate with the players. You try to, mend fences, but some things are insurmountable.
you forget, Mikel, the players are playing for their lives and competing against each other first, aren't they?
Yeah.
For life-changing financial success and to start in the team. Is that things you deal with? You have to referee fights from time to time?
Well, it hasn't happened that often, so three per year, it's a big number, hopefully. Hopefully,
It's our culture.
That won't happen, but it can be a good sign as well if it's in a controlled way as well, how competitive it is and how much they demand from each other and how much they are willing to put at stake to win. But yeah, hopefully they don't cross that line so much.
Steve, I want to go global again for a minute. I think there's some concern in the world about the rise of authoritarian leadership and perhaps the state of the world in the globe at the moment. Are you concerned about where leadership's happening on a world scale at the moment?
I'm an American, of course I'm concerned. Have you seen our president? Oh my gosh.
That was my gentle way of asking you.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, of course I'm concerned. I mean, we've, in my lifetime, we've had lots of problems, issues, wars, but we've never been divided like we are now. And I think it's a common theme around the world, probably because of social media, media for profit. There's so many forces that are purposely driving us apart, but it's especially apparent right now in our country, and it's very sad. And it's one of the reasons I love sports and art and music and literature. It's like there are things that naturally bring us together that are beautiful, but it's important also not to completely bury our head in the sand, from what's happening politically. So it's a tricky line to walk. You want to enjoy your life, but you also have to stay aware of what's happening and try to be a force for good, however you can.
Mikel, I'm always interested. You're Mikel Arteta, the Arsenal coach, but when you go home, you're a dad. And 3 beautiful boys, and you're a leader on the home front. What sort of leader are you when you walk in the door at home?
I think I have to. What I do normally put the coach hat away, and be the dad and be inspired by them. I think my wife, my kids, my family have managed to build again. It's about environment. I just open the doors in my house, and it's joy. It's the energy, the frequency that they live. It's the noise. It's alive. I go to a house that is not impacted by a result. It's not impacted by the issue that I had at the training. It's not impacted whether we have won 3 games, 10, or lost 2 in a row. It does not get affected. And that's the biggest compliment, especially to my wife, my family, the way they have carried all this with such normality. It is a sport. It is probably the most consuming part of my day. When it comes there, it's full of love, it's peace, it's joy, it's interchanging of emotions. And I would love to be there more, but when I'm there, it is intense, and it is the most fulfilling time of the day for sure.
Steve, got to meet your son Nick today, and you're travelling with the family and the grandkids. How about for you? How do you view yourself as a dad?
Well, I'm a dad first and a coach second. I didn't even begin coaching until my kids were almost out of the house because I wanted to be home. So when I retired from playing in 2003, my kids were 10, 8, and 5. And I decided to go into television just because it gave me a much better life. And so I waited till our youngest was maybe 17. At that point, he didn't need me around anyway. And and that's when I began my coaching career. And now it's beautiful because my family really enjoys the fact that I coach and the world that it's brought us into. My oldest son is following my footsteps, and he's coaching as well. But my younger 2 are doing their own thing, but they are everything to me. And I, like Mikel, I have an amazing wife and family who provide this incredible environment that I can always look forward to, regardless of the results of what's happening on the court.
Speaking of your wife, Margot, you strike me as the most unflappable, calm human being. It looks like you don't have a pulse rate sometimes, Steve. But I read a quote. She said, "Beware the fury of a patient man," describing Steve Kerr. What does she mean by that?
It means I snap. Every once in a while, I snap. About 3 times a year, I smash my clipboard, during a timeout when the team's not doing what we're supposed to do. I lose it. And so I'm patient, and then I'm not. And I think it's actually kind of effective to sort of lose my mind a couple of times a year. The players know how much I care, and they feel it, but the rest of the time I'm really pretty calm. And I think for my wife, I think she thought it was good for the kids to see me mad once in a while to keep them on the right path. But no, I think you said this in the very beginning, like what took us into coaching. There's a competitive fire that I have that was there from the time I was old enough to walk. I just, for whatever reason, I can't explain it, I just want to compete and be part of something and keep score and win and be part of a team, and it's what I love, and that's what, and everything that I've learned in my life has led me to coaching. Everything I've learned in terms of how to control my temper and to actually be poised and be patient and control that ability to snap. It took me a long time to really learn how to manage all that, but I think it's kind of a controlled competitiveness that serves me well in coaching.
Is there any technique that you can share, or just a learned life experience to get to?
Well, I had to experience a lot of failure before I realized that that's what we all have to go through, right? When I was young and we would lose, I thought I was a failure. And then I realized, no, the failure as you're going through it, that's the crucible you have to go through to get to the other side. And that we all fail. Every single one of us as human beings, we all fail. And so then there are techniques that we have to learn as we go. Mindfulness, right? We have to train our minds. But also recognize perspective. I think perspective is so important in coaching and leadership, and recognizing that not everyone wins, we all fail, and we all have to learn from that and use that to become better and to become our best selves.
We all are born different. As we grow, the experiences we have develop into outlooks uniquely our own, charting our life's course. No one sees an idea, opinion, or opportunity like you. And no one sees you like VU. Victoria University. Uniquely you.
At Aleda, our signature program, Aleda Connect, is something we're really passionate and proud of. We bring together groups of 5 to 6 people around the globe from diverse backgrounds, sport, industry, social venture and the arts, who come together to learn, to connect and to collaborate.
The thing that I've loved about it is not just the meetings that we have with our group, it's the thinking that you do for days and days afterwards. Someone says something and it sparks a thought, and I found that I would go back and look at things that I was doing in a different light. Within my sport and within women's sport, I'm just someone who I try to lead by keeping people talking about the issues. There's times when I think the person I'm trying to convince is not listening to me. It actually got me thinking about, okay, this is how I need to address my communication with them. So it was so valuable, and the little group that we've got is great, and I'm really looking forward to sort of continuing to connect with them into the future, because we're all so very different. I can't tell you how much I enjoyed it.
Mikel, we've been very privileged to have you both in our leader community, and very grateful so many have flown around the world to come together to learn and to connect and to share, and you and Steve have formed this great connection together. Can you share with us why that's been important to you, the Aleda program?
Well, especially in two senses. One is because it's a quite lonely profession. I think we are surrounded by a lot of people, but there are moments that you're on your own. And that feeling, I think we can talk about it, we know what it means, and we know how tough it is. And then because it provides a platform to share open hearts with no filters to Steve, how I'm feeling, the issue that when I'm dealing with, an opinion of his experiences, what he would do in my position to go and deliver an action or whatever is necessary. And there's no competition. It's something natural, it's organic. He wants the best out of me. If I can help him with something, he knows I'm here. And that's priceless. That's unbelievable. That's so rare to find, to put yourself into a position with somebody that daily is experiencing the same feelings, same kind of decisions, and is willing to help you with a level of advice like someone like him. So that's incredible.
Steve, can you share what the experience has been like for you collaborating with other world-leading coaches?
Oh, it's been amazing. I think this is my third year, and I've learned so much from all these different coaches, and everyone is so different, and it's a great reminder that there's so many different ways to accomplish a goal, and yet we're all trying to accomplish the same thing, which is to bring people together and to motivate them and to create a vibe and a culture that allows people to be their best selves, which then lifts up the whole group. And Mikel is incredibly innovative and filled with ideas, and I'm probably much more sort of easygoing, in terms of the vibe, and he's more thoughtful than I am in terms of ways to unify the group. So he brings these ideas that I haven't thought of that I realize, I need to think more about that, and I need to reach someone in this way or in that way, and so he's really innovative, and everybody in the group brings different ideas, different thoughts, but then as Mikel said, we root for each other. We're not competing against one another, and it's a really it's really fun to I'm
gonna give you one example of Steve.
Yeah.
So I think we're in one of those sessions, and at the end I think we hang out, and I say, "Can I spend 5 minutes with you, Steve?" Yeah, no problem. So you were in LA, in Las Vegas. They were preparing for the Olympics. So I'm just looking at his team, and I'm saying, "They're gonna win it." So with the players that they have, and Steve, how you feeling? And he goes, He said, "What do you mean? I don't have enough time to prepare the team." He said, "Steve, honestly, so when I get to that stage, you want everything in the game, you still have that fear or that uncertainty, what happens next?" And that really drives me. So that's that feeling that is never enough. I always want more, and I'm always on alert mode. And that really struck me, because from my desktop in London at Colney, I was thinking about Steve with all those great players go to the Olympics. They're going to piss it. They're going to win it. It's so easy. He's in Las Vegas scratching his head. He has had no time. They are not good enough, and we might not win it. It's like, wow.
And we barely won.
And they won it.
Barely won.
But that's perspective as well, and it puts you how humble somebody that's won everything can be, and so aware of, okay, this is a sport. Anything can happen. Be on your toes.
It's inspiring, isn't it, to see people at the absolute top of their game taking time out to learn and still share and still curious to get better. We find it infinitely inspiring to hear those stories. Because many people are listening in the audience and hopefully get to hear this message will be leading their own environments and their own teams and wanting to have success in the way that you've had in your life. What would you pass on? What's the true essence of great leadership in your mind?
It's what Steve said at the end. It's bringing clarity, first of all, bringing the right environment, and then actions. You need to make decisions in the moment with the right timing. Why? Because at the end we want to transform our players, our staff, and everybody around it with one purpose, which is ideally to win football matches, in my case, to win trophies. But that capacity to transform, whether it's a human being, whether it's a football club, whether it is an idea or an experience that they have in relation to how they understood the game, for me, that's the power of it. And that brings the capacity to change somebody's life, to bring an opportunity, in my case now for a 15-year-old, to fulfill his dream to be a football player, and all his family and the consequences to that. That's magic.
Steve, with all the success you mentioned before, that all of us have a life story and there's hurdles that come for all of us, but how would you describe a happy and successful life for Steve Kerr?
Well, So I'll tell you a great story about Roger Federer. We were playing in China with the Warriors in 2017, I think, exhibition season. You know, we're training over there. We played 2 games. Roger Federer was in Shanghai for the Masters tournament there. So we invited him to come and speak to the team. And Draymond Green asked him, he said, how do you sustain success? How have you managed to win majors 20 years after you first won one? And everyone was expecting him to say, you know, I work harder than everybody, and I, you know, the will, and, you know, all the cliches, right? So Roger Federer says, I get up every morning and I make breakfast for my kids, and then I take them to school and I drop them at school, and then I go practice tennis for about 2 hours, and I've figured out a really good routine where I don't destroy my body, but I can really get all the work in I need. And then I go have lunch with my wife, and then in the evening, you know, we cook dinner together, and the kids are all home from school. We ask them about school, and there's so much joy in the house, and then you know, we put them to bed, and then I put my head on the pillow, and I go, man, that was just a great day. And he goes, and I've been doing that for 20 years. And it was like, yes, that's it, right? That's the formula. That's what leads to sustained success. He loves tennis. He loves his family. He loves life. So it's not outworking everybody and banging your head against the wall and I'm going to be better than everybody. It's allowing your natural talent to shine through with a work ethic, with a great family life, with perspective, with peace, with a mindfulness about you that, man, I'm so lucky to do what I do. And all of us here are in the top 1% of lucky people on the planet. We know that, right? All we have to do is look at the suffering that's out there. And so it's perspective, it's joy, it's passion, it's mindfulness, it's an awareness that we are truly lucky, and to get the most out of ourselves, it's our daily rituals and experiences and love and joy.
Mikel, with that, does that resonate with you?
I love the story of Roger, and actually we're having a conversation out there about the sports and our differences, and we talk a lot with Aleda, with Matt, always about collaboration. What does that mean, collaboration? At the end, it means it's not to be nice, to give the opportunity to somebody to do something with you. At the end, it's being committed to a mission, whether it is a project, whether it is a goal, whether it is a dream. And a lot of times they ask, so explain an experience with that collaboration. And I said, it's not a collaboration, it's a connection. My biggest connection ever is not being with a human being, it's being with an object. And probably we share the same object, which is a ball. And a ball, if you put one ball in a garage full of dust, that ball has zero value. It's deflated, it's hiding, nobody uses it. If I put it here in Piccadilly Circus, surrounded by kids, and I throw a ball, in 10 minutes I see a lot of joy, smiles, playing people sweating. If I put it somewhere in a village in Africa where they don't really have something to play with, and I throw it, I give hope. In my case, it was the tool that gave me the opportunity to dream and fulfill a life that has been full of experiences. To travel the world, to meet some fascinating people, to learn different languages, to live in different cultures, to transform people's lives, and to give me the joy of my life. That after it was to meet my wife, to start to create a family, and who knows where that ball is going to take me to. Steve is a different ball, with a different surface, but he created his own destiny. And now we are probably here together because of that ball. It's not something, again, sometimes it's the environment, sometimes it's an object. And you cannot underestimate that. Sometimes we talk about collaboration and we want our people to play more between them. Good, put 4 sofas, a coffee machine, and a few games there, and it will happen organically. You don't have to force it. And that's the magic of it. That's the magic, in my opinion, the joy of my life, it was given by a football. And And I'm so grateful to that. And no human being could do that. And he doesn't speak, he doesn't talk, but it speaks. And it has the power that if I put it in the garage, it's nothing. If I give it to somebody in his foot, or in his case, in his hands, in the right stadium, in the right moment, it can change in 1 second the emotional state of a country.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow, that's the beauty of it.
Yeah. From the beaches of San Sebastian, growing up with that ball that changed your life. We love this idea, Steve, that success leaves clues, and we're fascinated by the patterns that make people consistently successful, as you described with Roger Federer, and this idea that it's very hard to leave someone else, Steve, without being able to lead yourself first. What does that mean to you? What do you do to fill your cup up to be your best for others?
Yeah, I think it's important to have, hobbies, and I like to play golf. I like to surf. Did you surf growing up?
A little bit.
A little bit, yeah, me too, just a little bit.
But I'm really bad.
Yeah, so am I. So we should go out and surf together sometime. But no, I think, being into a good book during the season is always helpful for me. Losing myself in a book, cooking. I like to cook. My wife and I cook together. We have the best dog on earth. I know everybody thinks they have the best dog, but we actually have the best dog.
What's your dog's name? We've got to find
Lulu.
What sort of dog?
She's a retriever, and but it's everything we're talking about, right? It's just life. It's having joy and things that you enjoy and perspective, and then looking forward to my job every day. It's what a great way to live, to be able to wake up and be excited and go through the day and experience it.
What do you do to fill your cup up, Mikel, so you can be your best?
It's the simple things. The alarm goes off, I go to my kids' room and I jump on top of them, I kiss them, I hug them. They look at me, what time is it, Daddy? There's still an hour, you can still go to bed. Those little things, my moment, grabbing a coffee, going in the car on my own with my music, with my thoughts. Get to a training ground, get away from there, go on holidays, spend time with them, laugh. That's one of the things that I miss the most, is laughing that I cannot stop laughing. I want more people in my life that makes me laugh, that it takes me away from all the madness and the structure and everything, all the habits that we have to do. And that's it. I think the word that Steve used is perspective and being present in the moment, which I think nowadays is quite of a challenge for all of us.
Is there one thing you do as a leader, Mikel, that you would never change?
Probably consistency. Probably when I have a habit, I'm quite stubborn to try to do that as much as possible. Probably because it gives me security and comfort. Probably is not the best thing to do. But I have in my house the opposite to that, which is always something very good.
How about you? Is there something as a leader, Steve, that's been you and you'd never change?
I think what I've learned is that it's important to have expertise, but also be aware that you don't know everything. And so collaborating, what that means is really admitting in front of the group, I don't have all the answers, right? And what that leads to is if the players know that I know what I'm doing, I know what I'm talking about, but I don't have the answers. Now the collaboration becomes real and the conversation becomes real. We can come up with the best solution together. I'm not going to tell it to you, but you can only do that if you feel comfortable with that knowledge. And that's something that I think everybody should always aspire to, because we never stop learning. There's always things that we need to learn, no matter what position we're in.
We see great leaders, Mikel, always very clear on their vision. Has there been a visionary leader that you felt compelled to follow along your journey?
Yeah, I have met some incredible people that unconsciously probably I have learned a lot. I think, as I said before, probably the thing that have shaped me the most is the culture and the environment I had in the place that I lived. Because I call it, where's a place, it's north of Spain, it's called San Sebastian. It's a beautiful place. If you guys want to go and have the best ever food, go there. It's my recommendation. And always rains, but it rains in a way that is different. It's like a drizzle. You know what a drizzle means? Like it's like this really thin. Is always there. I say, I'm not gonna get the umbrella. I'm not gonna get the jacket. In 5 minutes, you are soaking wet. You know. And that's about it. You know, what we do live is, it has to be present. Whatever we want to achieve, whatever the vision is, it has to be present in everything. We have to continue to defend our values and the way that we want to conduct ourselves, our behaviors, when we are home, when we are in the restroom by ourselves, when nobody's watching. It's about that. It's about being constantly there present with what you want to do. And the word that Steve used, authenticity. Who do you want to be? Are you that person? You have to be that person in any context. The context of somebody's opinion cannot change who you are, and be very strong on that.
Steve, we see leaders inherently curious who get to the level that you've got to. Can you share how curiosity shows up for you, and is there a rabbit hole that curiosity's taken you down in recent times?
I think Greg Popovich, my coach in San Antonio, has been a real inspiration for me, just because of the way he's handled himself, spoken out on social issues, but also treated people. You know, Mikel was talking about clarity, and Greg Popovich was the best I've ever seen at delivering a bad message in a really good way. And meaning, like, he took me out of the rotation as a player one time, and it was all very matter of fact, but I knew, you know, how much he cared about me, and he just, the way you deliver a message, I've never seen anybody as powerful as him, because he could tell you you're being demoted, but make you feel good about it, you know. And the way he would do it was with genuine compassion. You know, hey, I know this is tough, but we're gonna take you out of the rotation, but you know, you stay with it, and here's why. The clarity is really important. It can't be, you know, hey, just keep your head up, you'll be fine. It's got to be, here's why. You know, I'm going to play him because we need somebody to do this right now. And so he would do it in a way that could also really be jarring, like make you realize I've got to be better, and my approach has to be better, my attitude has to be better. And I realized then that, you know, coaching is not just encouraging and saying, hey, you know, you have to be honest with people at some difficult times, but the way you deliver the message is everything. And I've prided myself on that skill that Greg Popovich showed me. And it means knowing we have 15 players, you have 24. He's got a harder job than I do. But I pride myself on knowing all 15 guys' stories and what they're going through and how I can help them achieve what they want to achieve.
Where does your curiosity take you, Mikel?
Too many places. It's a constant improvement. I can go from, I don't know, I can wake up one day and said, my process on match day is not good enough. It's what we are communicating to the players, starting from between us coaches to the analysts, to the other guys, to actually how the message can deliver. I don't like it. Who is the best at that? So it's the British fighter planes, for example. I'm going to get in touch with that guy, how they communicate, because there is die or death. I'm sure they not use 20 phrases or 20 words. It will be one word to say, no, the wind is coming this way, now you have to turn there because boom, dead. So it will be one word. So what is it? How specific can we, how clear we can be? And bring them in and say, I want you to analyze our process, 3 days, how we communicate, how we do that in training, how we do that. And I want to get better at this. And be vulnerable, you know, and get smashed and said, you guys are terrible at this. We need to improve. Okay, so we're going to get better at this. And find constantly the margins. That's one of my biggest passions, and getting to understand these people, how they think, how they operate, how this relates to Formula One, how this relates to something else, and trying to improve on that.
I'm going to finish up shortly and very keen to get some questions, but Mikel's just mentioned very clearly about how important communication is, Steve, and refining that. You're a great communicator, you both are. Have you been thoughtful about the way you communicate as a leader?
One thing I like to do is write letters to the players, and I was more English and history as a student than math and science. So I became a pretty good writer in school. And I find that sometimes if I give a player a letter, I can think out my thoughts and the player can read the letter afterwards. Because in a conversation, especially these days, our attention spans are less than they used to be because of our phones. But I find that a letter can be very powerful sometimes for a player, and just write it to him, hand it to him, and talk to him the next day and see what he thinks. And that's so changing up the way you communicate. It can be good, I think.
Mikel, who's been the greatest leader in your life?
The ball. I mean, he has inspired me to be where I am and to have all the experiences. I haven't followed and still follow somebody and want somebody more than that object. Is not, unfortunately, is not a person, and that has drive to all incredible things. Obviously, my parents, all the people that are around me, my wife, my kids, they all have, but this has been the most inspirational thing that has led to the rest of the story, the rest of the journey, and who knows what's going to be next.
What a great answer, Steve. Who's been the greatest leader in your life?
My dad, for sure. Yeah, just the example. He said he was a very humble, funny man, loving, and the way he kind of went about being a dad and a husband was my best teacher.
Can you put your hands together, please, and thank Mikel Arteta and Steph Curry. We do have time for some questions, so please put your hand up. We've got a roaming mic.
My name's Joshua Blake. I'm founder of JHB and Partners. What I'd like to ask is, you've both taken teams from good to great by creating a really impressive culture. How have you dealt with difficult personalities along the way? And when do you know this is a person that is toxic and we should cut them out, or this is a person that needs more love, more attention? Like with the Rodman example, how do you harness that aggression? Or then how do you end up with someone like Balotelli, for example, who maybe seems like a bit of a wasted talent in football? So I'd like to know how you go about that.
The ratio of difficult person and talent is always very important, right? So you have to weigh, is this player impactful enough to be worth putting in the work to deal with his difficulty? Okay, so there are very few players in my mind that are worth that difficulty. Dennis Rodman was one of them. He was very difficult, but he was an incredible player. He was also a very passionate teammate who wanted to win. And so the way I look at it is, are the intentions pure with this difficult player? If the intentions are pure and the player is powerful and impacts winning, then we're going to make this work. If the intentions are not pure, and if the player is talented but isn't really moving the needle, we got to get rid of them. We got to move on from them. But the job itself is to coach everyone. It's to, you hope that you have alignment, as Mikel was talking earlier, like alignment between the coach and the management and ownership, so that you can pick the players and have a really good group in front of you. But there's always going to be difficult personalities, but they have to, you have to coach them, but they have to be worth it too. That's how I look at them.
Thank you, gentlemen. This has been brilliant. We had an amazing mindfulness session earlier, so I'd love to know how you've implemented mindfulness in your careers in what in sport is a relentless pursuit of success.
Well, Phil Jackson was the first coach that I had who taught mindfulness and meditation, and I realized how powerful it was after we started doing it together as a team. And I was telling Mikel earlier, the new players that would come to the Bulls when we would start meditating as a team, Phil would ask us to all close our eyes and start breathing, and the new players would always be peeking out of the corner of their eye, like, is the joke on me, but it was real. It was something that was important to fill. So I learned it as a player. I learned to be more present. It really helped me as my career went on because I was very hard on myself. And at times when I was playing, I was thinking about the outcome rather than the process. And mindfulness really helped me to, I think, be more in the moment and allow myself to play. We have someone who comes in with our team and takes them through mindfulness sessions. There's a great book called The Inner Game of Tennis that was almost my Bible when I played. It really talks about the two selves, self one and self two, your mind and your body, and how to unify them. And there were a lot of things in that book that helped me as a player. I give that book to my players sometimes when I see them fighting themselves. So I think there's a lot in there. It just depends on how different coaches want to address it.
Hi, Akil Weiss from the Arsenal Supporters Trust. How do you guys deal with sort of those awkward conversations? So whether it's with a player that you think you have to upgrade on, or a player that you think is now regressing because of age, that you feel you have to start to phase out, like those kind of conversations, how difficult are they and how do you kind of handle them?
I think they are difficult, obviously, but at the end, going back to our roles, I think providing clarity. So you need to communicate with the player, and you need to do it in the right time frame. Then you need to understand what is the best environment to have a conversation. So if I bring a player into my office and I sit him next to me, or there is a table between us, the conversation is different. If I do it on the pitch, it is different. If I bring them to my sofa at home, and my kids are in the back door, it is a different conversation. So I think mastering that is extremely difficult, but we can never forget the power as leaders of the conversation and where the conversation is located. And then the spirit. At the end, you're not going to convince that person or that player that day that you are a good human being, you care about him, but I'm going to deliver bad news. If you haven't done the homework before, especially by actions with their teammates in other circumstances, he's not going to buy into that. But it's worth having it. At the end, you have to live with it. You need to, next day, you have to look in his eyes and you have to ask him to do something, and the rest for the rest of the team. So sometimes you don't feel like it's the right moment for you because you don't have the energy. It's after a match, maybe you lost it. If there's another issue or the board calls you, you need to have the conversation. Think carefully about the location, how you want to deliver it, and to make sure that he feels that he cares. I think the words that we use, especially the way we make that intro before we actually deliver the news, like you said, Popovich was the best at that, I think is key. And when they believe that you're genuinely transparent and honest, whether they like it or not, at least they will respect the decision.
Hi, thanks for the talk. I wanted to ask, you guys have played with some of the greatest players in your sport, or the greatest in your sport, and what I wanted to know is, how did you guys deal with when your team was down as players and you had to come back from a very difficult position as players, and how is that different as managers? So when you're really, really down, you look like you don't know whether you're going to come back from it. As players and managers, how have you dealt with that?
Yeah, I think internal leadership is important on every team, and so within the group, there's usually someone who is more vocal than others, and you can, as you play together, as you get more and more cohesive as a team, you sort of understand the dynamics of how to recover from a deficit. And with our team, we have Draymond Green. If you're an NBA fan, he does all the talking on our team. Steph Curry doesn't say a whole lot. I try to bridge the gap, as a coach. But there's usually a dynamic that's much like a family or any group of people that are collaborating together, that you sort of know, your own role. And I think it's important if you're a role player and you're not part of the leadership and you're not giving a speech, it's important for those guys to be really upbeat on the bench and keep the energy up and keep the focus. But ultimately, it's on the whole group and each individual to to lift the tide, however, in whatever role they're in.
Hi there, Darren, Arsenal season ticket holder. Mikel, you've obviously been in this sport for a long time. From Barcelona to Paris, Glasgow Rangers, Everton, Arsenal, and you've probably left every club knowing that you can go back as a popular former player to all those clubs. When you look at this summer, when we've seen some of the transfers that have taken place, especially with former Newcastle player going to Liverpool, do you feel that player power or agent power has gone too far compared to when you started in this sport, and same with Steve, the same thing with agent power in the US? And how do you deal with that today compared to maybe how you would have dealt with it 4 or 5 years ago?
Yeah. Well, I think that's been an ongoing issue for many years. I had players that I play with that they tried to put the club, well, it was the club, the owner, the manager in that position, in a really difficult position by threatening or by acting or behaving in a certain way to push a deal to go through and move somewhere else. It's part of it. I think in Spain it's different because you have a release clause. You pay that release clause, you are out, you don't have to explain anybody. In England, the law is different and the contracts and the legal part are different. You have to live with that. It's a possibility. I think when you are in our shoes, especially with ownership, with the guy at the end has to give the green light, we need to understand it's going to go legal. It's going to go at the end to what is allowed to happen, what is not allowed to happen. And there is certain boundaries there that are really thin. And if they move through those boundaries, actually, it's your choice how you want to act. You can suspend a player, you can get a player out, go back to the position. As Steve mentioned before, how good is the player? How big is the problem? How big is that gap? And sometimes it's not good to say, but can we afford not to do it? There will be some clause where they will be in a position to say, can we afford not to do this if we get pushed to do this? And it's the nature of that. At the end, the big fish eats the smaller fish, like in many other companies, and people are very ambitious. There is a lot of issues in terms of regulations in football at the moment, and in my opinion, has to be resolved or improved. But while they're not, I think those issues will remain.
Final note to finish on, Steve, if I could indulge you this for a moment. You played and coached a lot of Australians. Luke Longley, the 7-foot giant, a great teammate of yours, and I understand he had the habit of ordering the menu when you went out. Is it true you've got a Luke Longley Australian impersonation?
Well, he would make a statement in the form of a question at every meal. So Luke Longley was 7'2" and about 300 pounds, and we would go out to eat. And at every meal, we would sit down, and he would say, "Appetizers for the table." but it was not a question.
Put your hands together for Steve Kerr and Mikel Arteta. Thank you very much.